The 9th of April marked the end of 25 years of Saddam's brutal rule of Iraq. And there's one picture, more than any other, that symbolizes the fall of the Iraqi dictator. That is a giant statue of Saddam Hussein, a statue that had been standing in the center of Baghdad until it was torn down on the 9th of April. This image, Saddam with a noose around his neck, would be eerily echoed 3.5 years later, at his execution. Saddam literally went underground after his fall. But in December 2003, he was arrested and brought to court. He was sentenced to death for his crimes and finally executed on the 30th of December 2006. The problem with this video clip is that it destroys the impression that Saddam faced a fair trial. This looks more like a lynch mob in action than a state execution. The recordings of Saddam's execution were made with a cell phone. One like this. They were then posted to YouTube, where they quickly circled the globe. Soldiers taking photos and leaking them to the internet aren't the only problems the US government faces. Even the photos made by the US government, photos made for propaganda and public relations purposes, increasingly end up backfiring. One famous example of this would be the photos made on the 1st of May 2003 on board the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln. Bush announced the end of battle operations and the success of the US in Iraq. His PR people produced a massive spectacle, including a giant banner proclaiming "Mission accomplished." As we now know, the real conflict was only just getting started. During the actual war, only 138 US soldiers were killed. Since the end of the invasion, over 3,900 more soldiers have died, and more continue to die daily. So much for mission accomplished. As the public became more skeptical, many people began to realize that a good portion of the events had been staged. Do you remember the picture of the Saddam statue from earlier? Let me show you something. This website hosts photos that show what was really happening on the square surrounding the statue. You can't find any massive crowds of Iraqi people spontaneously celebrating the demise of their dictator. As a matter of fact, you can see that the square was cordoned off by US soldiers. The whole thing was just staged propaganda by the US Army.